inhibiting HSL, hormone sensitive lipase, therefore inhibiting fat oxidation. That's why keto and carnivore work so well for people that are trying to lose weight. Today we're talking protein. Why? Because protein is one of the simplest things that we can do to increase muscle size and then also oxidize fat or go through lipolysis, which is essentially fat burning, which is what most people want to do. They want to be lean, they want to be healthier, and men want to be jacked and women want to be athletic and lean. It's super important to understand nutrients and macronutrients, which we're going to talk about protein today, which is one of the three macronutrients. You have protein, carbs, and fats, and why protein is important. Recently, they came out with a new food pyramid, which is like about time. We figured out that fats and protein are important and that you shouldn't hinder them. We did a disservice to the millennial generation 90s kids, saying that fat was bad and probably hindered a lot of brain development. So could be maybe a little bit smarter if we went to just cut out all fats from our diet. Another thing is protein is extremely important for many things in the body. One of the main things that proteins does are break down into amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks for everything in our body. And one of the most interesting things I've come across over the past few years, like researching protein and all this stuff, is the protein leverage hypothesis, which essentially says that we undereat protein. And as omnivores, like us and a few other animals, because we need to utilize amino acids for everything we build in the body to include hair, nails, skin, different hormones. There's peptide hormones like GLP-1s that I'm sure everyone's heard about. There's more that we'll go into, but you need amino acids in many of the things that occur in the body, nearly everything. And we significantly undereat protein as we see an increase of processed foods and the convenient snacks that are all the highly refined carbohydrates. Either way, the theory talks about how we overconsume 30%, up to 30% calories. So potentially 200 to 500 extra calories a day because our body is craving the amino acids that we need from protein in food, which there's 9 essential amino acids that you have to get from food, that our body cannot make. One of them is tryptophan that we've talked about in the synthesis of serotonin. Another one is leucine, which is huge in the production of collagen. The theory is very interesting because it's saying it's adding to the obesity rate that we see and the overconsumption of food that we see in people. So, in when you eat a bag of potato chips, not only has it been engineered by food scientists to get to a bliss point, which is essentially the perfect combination of sugar, fat, salt, and crunch or mouthfeel that is going to give you a dopamine hit similar to like gambling or a slot machine. It's engineered that way to be addictive. So you don't eat, you eat a whole bag of chips, but also in the protein leverage hypothesis, your body is still craving the amino acids that it didn't get from that potato chip because there's nearly next to none amino acid profile in those potato chips. Same could go for pretzels. Same could go for veggie straws, fruit snacks, whatever snack that typically is on the grocery shelf. A bowl of cereal. Not only do not satiate you similar to a protein or even fiber and a complex carbohydrate like fruit. It's a quick sugar rush. It's going to not give you any nutrition density. Therefore, your body is going to want more. Our bodies are smart. Our brains are smart. They know they need nutrients, and when you don't satiate yourself with food and you don't provide the needed nutrients, then it's going to want more. So, to wrap up the protein leverage hypothesis, it is a discussion of we are under consuming protein significantly, therefore leading to an increased calorie intake up to 500 extra calories a day, which is not insignificant. And we are craving more protein, so you should eat more protein. Now, why? Well, for anybody that wants to build muscle, you need amino acids. Your body recycles or uses around 250 to 300 grams of protein per day. That doesn't mean that you're losing that per day, because your body is good at recycling the protein, and protein, amino acids, and amino acids can't, essentially, it's very challenging for them to get stored. So take a philosophical approach here for a minute, but in this world, energy is never gone. Energy either gets used or is recycled. Take, for example, a forest fire from a lightning strike, not from a dude flicking cigarette butts. But a forest fire from a lightning strike is a natural occurrence. It's going to burn down some trees. That carbon is then going to get into the soil and produce a very nutrient dense atmosphere for new growth of things. An example: protein and amino acids work in this way of, they don't necessarily ever get stored like carbohydrate or fat would in the body as a triglyceride or glycogen. They're going to either get recycled or utilized. So with that, it's extremely challenging to gain fat and store fat when you're eating primarily protein. And if you're replacing that recycling or that production of protein with the adequate amounts, you're not running into a thing where you're just constantly breaking down muscles and rebuilding without building that back. It's like the inflation. Like, can we keep up? I don't know. But if you reduce your spending and you increase your income, you're going to do better than just like standing and doing nothing and expecting that your money is going to increase with inflation. Same concept that you have with amino acids and protein. And this is really important for as we age, because think of muscle as like a suit of armor around your bones, joints, and everything else. Like, weak muscles above and below a joint are going to cause issues with tendons and ligaments, are going to cause pain, because your body is a complex system that works in conjunction, not in one spot. So protein also helps with collagen synthesis, and that will increase your tendon and ligament health, therefore reducing your chance of injuries. And so one important role that protein and amino acids hold is the production of peptide hormones. Insulin will be one, glucagon would be another one, luteinizing hormone, which is the signaling hormone that in men goes from your pituitary down to your testicles to produce testosterone, and growth hormone, which is another one important for everybody, because growth hormone significantly declines after age 35-ish. Growth hormone is needed, and it helps repair all kinds of different things, injury, it helps repair muscle, it helps with hair growth. So as you reduce the amount of growth hormone in the body, you can get a litany of other issues. So how does it play a role in fat loss? Lipolysis, or fat oxidation, occurs via an enzyme called hormone sensitive lipase. And when you continually spike your insulin, it inhibits the ability for hormone sensitive lipase to do its job. Therefore, it much more difficult to go through fat oxidation or lipolysis, because you're in a constant fed state. And the kind of the goal of insulin is to move energy into the cells from the bloodstream. And when you're in a constantly fed state, that's why you cannot reduce the amount of adipose tissue or fat that you have. So when you eat heavy carbohydrate diet, or you're constantly spiking insulin with these smaller snacks that are pure refined carbohydrate, you're continuously spiking your blood glucose and spiking the insulin response that is needed to move the energy into the cell. Inhibiting HSL, hormone sensitive lipase, therefore inhibiting fat oxidation. That's why keto and carnivore work so well for people that are trying to lose weight. Factors also apply of like you're removing heavily processed foods, which is another big issue. But one of the best things I've found for me to reduce the amount of body fat and get peeled, for me, was timing carbohydrates. And so carbohydrates show a benefit after workouts and utilizing your muscles, because they put glycogen into the muscle, therefore drawing water into the muscle for repair. So timing carbs has worked well for me because I can go into a workout in a quote unquote fasted or unfed state if I eat just pure protein like a Greek yogurt or eggs before a workout. You can still go through the fat oxidation while building muscle because you have protein. You're not completely fasted, which you can do fasted as well. But then after the workout, you eat 20 to 30 grams of carbs, and that really helps bring that controlled level of insulin spike. So it's more moderate rather than a huge spike, and it's going directly into the muscle for glycolysis and the repair of the muscle. So for me, that's been very effective in reducing carbohydrates outside that because carbs aren't bad. You need them. You need glucose. It's good for brain health. It's good for a lot of other things. You need it in the cascade of hormones because if you there's a happy balance of too much insulin causes the increase of sex hormone binding globulin, which then ties up more testosterone. But if you have too low of insulin, because it's plays a role in insulin growth factor that plays a role the inhibition of sex hormone binding globulin. You need it in order to reduce that because a lot of times with keto you see skyrocketing levels of testosterone with super low free testosterone. Either way, there's a happy balance. So you do need some level of carbohydrate. I'm not saying they're bad, but if you understand that all these snacks that are spiking insulin constantly are going to increase levels and make it more challenging to lose weight if that's your goal to lean out, that would be good. So why is it all important? And what are some good sources of protein? Well, it's all important because as we age, our hormones decline, our muscle mass declines, and to build against that is important. If you're not building against that, giving yourself enough adequate protein and resistance training, which many people should do, to combat different aging things, it would be important to intake the adequate amount of protein. And recent guidelines just changed to 1.6 grams per kilogram, which equivalates to, 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. The old guidelines were zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram, which was significantly low. And again, you're not building against that hyperinflation where your body is using all these proteins up for these different things in the body. A good target would be like as close as body weight as possible per gram. So if you're 200 pounds, as close as 200 grams as you can get per day from good sources. If you're getting a protein bar and calling that good, it's a glorified candy bar with excess calories, probably using a soy or pea protein, which is 50% less absorbable into the body, bioavailable. The best is animal proteins because they're broken down into amino acids much better in the body and then absorbed much better. So, cheese is a great one. Hard Parmesan cheese, 1 ounce, which is a 1 by 1 inch square, has 7 grams of protein in it. That's better than many protein bars because you're not getting all the junk with it. Greek yogurt's another really good one. 3/4 cup has 16 grams of protein. And depending on the fat content, 0%, 2%, 5% is typically what they come in. Your 0% is getting 90 calories per serving with 16 grams of protein. That's a pretty good ratio. And your 5% full fat's getting around 150 calories with 16 grams of protein, which is not a bad ratio. And if you're not concerned with fat, then that's good. Personally, I like the 5% because I know my calorie intake, and the 5% just tastes way better than the 0% because it's fat. Fat tastes good. Hard boiled eggs are another good one. Eggs in general are a good one. And it's important to know that amino acids are the precursor to so many things like hormones, like growth hormone, insulin, luteinizing hormone, GnRH, which comes from the hypothalamus to the pituitary to signal LH and FSH. And they're responsible for creating enzymes, which are catalysts, chemical catalysts in the body that, again, would take millions of years to occur if we didn't have them. They're a precursor for antibodies, which are a protein that essentially looks at invaders in the body and helps respond to things like a virus. And they provide the structure and framework for bones, skin, hair, nails, muscles. So incredibly important and underrated. I would suggest, at least in my experience, my best results have been from eating animal sources, whole foods like meat and Greek yogurt's a golden child for calorie to protein ratio. Hard cheeses have less lactose, so if you do have issue with dairy, There's very minimal lactose in Parmesan and Asiago hard cheeses, and you're getting a really good bang for your buck. 7 grams of protein for a 1 inch cube. And eggs are a great source. If you want to do supplements, whey protein is good and it's come a long way since over the last 10 years, but I am not an adamant proponent of supplements because there's a lot of issues with ingredients that they put in there, and also some of the proteins are tested via nitrogen content, which is old method of testing. Therefore, is testing the nitrogen levels, not necessarily the protein levels, and could actually be 30% less protein than you're getting. So if it says 20 grams of protein, it could be like 15, and they're claiming high protein. You know, it's just the truth isn't always there in supplements. So just eat really good food and prioritize protein. Your plate should have more protein than carbohydrate on it. And your carbohydrates should come after the most intense part of your day, the most physically active part of your day, whether that's working out, walking, and things of that nature. If you are trying to reduce the amount of adipose tissue, which is fat, which everybody should be trying to reduce that, unless you're, you know, dick skin lean. Protein is way more satiating than other macronutrients. It also has a thermodynamic effect of 20 to 30% better. So your body has to use calories in order to break down protein into amino acids. Carbohydrates is like 5%, whereas protein is 30%. So if you eat 800 calories worth of protein, which would be a lot, then 30% of that, or roughly 240 calories, would be utilized to burn that protein, therefore netting a 600-ish, 650 calorie total. So you eat 800, your body goes through the process of thermogenesis to break down the protein into amino acid, and then you're resulting with 640 calories, which is significant if you're trying to lose weight. Every calorie matters. So not only that, it's extremely more satiating. It affects leptin and ghrelin hormones. Ghrelin is like your hunger ghrelin hormone, which tells you to eat. Leptin is like your satiated, your full hormone. And some people, this is off, probably in myself, because I like to eat way too much. But it also affects GLP, glucagon-like peptide, which everyone probably knows. The Ozempics and semaglutides, which are GLP-1 agonists, they work the same as that glucagon-like peptide GLP-1 that you have in your body, to an extent that works same as these GLP-1s. But protein activates this, therefore satiating your body, satiating your hunger longer, and it's one of it is the most satiating macronutrients. So you eat less calories, therefore leading to a better hunger control and satiation throughout the day. You're not micro snacking on all these different things. Add in a quality source that's nutrient dense of food, your body isn't craving a bunch of nutrients that you're not getting from a highly processed diet. So all things to consider and important to understand. Like, share, subscribe.